Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to get singles for all your Force of Will and other trading card games, as well as these amazing patrons.
Thank you for your support. Enjoy the video.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Paul, and I'm back with a tournament report today for the tournaments that happened at the Spanish Masters and GP Vegas. Of course, right before we get going here, if you're not subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Hit subscribe so you get more content like the tournament report, our weekly podcast for Ruler School, and then of course the Teacher's Lounge is our podcast. But we also do a ton of other stuff over the course of the week on this channel, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss out. And then if you like this video, hit like. It really helps the channel out. And of course, if you have anything you want to say back to me, I would love it if you left a comment down below. I'd love to just have a conversation with you about this game that we all love. But of course, we need to get into the actual stuff. So first thing we're going to take a look at today is we're going to be looking at the Spanish Masters. Now, Spanish Masters happened at the beginning of the month, and it happened before we got our new set for Alice Origins 2. So these decks are not going to be super relevant. However, it is going to be part of our conversation later on how the meta has changed. So this is the last snapshot of the meta that we have before AO2 dropped. So without further ado, here is the first place winner for the New Frontiers tournament in Spain. They definitely won this tournament with your boy Hanzo. Hanzo has always been good because of Sealing Scroll, but I think that the fact that this is in a lawn style, a light water and wind configuration gives you access to a lot of different stuff. Of course, you have your Dark Alice, Alice Zeus combo alongside your Kaguyas, and the ability to negate stuff and then replace stuff back into your hand is really nice with your Bastet. Of course, if you're running Kaguya, you might as well be running Chant of Tranquility, so that way you can set up your graveyard for a Haiku combo. That's where your Kaguya just basically becomes a beast. Of course, we also have True and Calico Cat to help you get your stones and correct your stones into the right color configuration. Loki's Insight, which has been a real important card, at least in the current moment. It is also a really important card, but it's cool to see that they're actually using it here as well. Erendite is also being used to stop automatic abilities. Misty Woods is a pretty common card we're going to be seeing in decks similar to this, even in the Atom variation of this list. And Lenneth Seal is there to help you proc your Zeus Alice and your Dark Alices. What I want to talk about though is Motoko. So Motoko is not hard to achieve in this deck, mostly because you're running ramp in the form of True and in the form of Chant of Tranquility. So you're able to get to the stones needed in order to play this, and plus it's one of the only cards in the game that cannot be cancelled. So this card coming down cannot be stopped by Kaguya. It's a 14/14 with all of these symbol skills. It has barrier. It's basically a Zeus Alice but bigger, and you can't cancel it. So this card is pretty fantastic, and the fact that they're running 4 copies across their main and sideboard says a lot about what this card would end up doing. And I would imagine if it was in the mirror match or in the same vein of like playing against something that was using Kaguya, or if you needed to play against Control, this card would be really strong. And for those of you who don't know what these red bordered cards are, these are memorial cards. You can use memorials if they're currently legal in the game for New Frontiers. If they are not legal, you cannot use them. They are not New Frontiers legal. So you're seeing the promo Windstone that came out in Europe. That is something that came out as a memorial in AO1, so you're able to use it. And then of course they're playing, I believe that's Light Vapors. I can't really tell from this far away, but I would imagine it is Light Vapors. And that was also a promo, so they can use that as well. So that's, if there's any questions around that, that's what that is. But for the most part, this deck is pretty straightforward at this point. You can use your Yokai Festivals to bring out your Alices, and then you just kind of run train from there. It's a pretty straightforward deck. Congratulations to the first place winner, and we're going to go on to the second place winner. So second place was an ISIS list. That's a tongue twister, if anything. An ISIS list won second place. So what you're going to be seeing here is the basic package: your ISIS, your Nyarlathotep, your Desert Miners, Of course, you're playing your Dark Alices. You have Izanamis to bring back any of these at your Narla or your Isis that dies according to battle and is in the graveyard or whatever. It's right there for you to use again. Light of Raisin Revive. If something gets banished, you can just bring it right back to the field, and that's a really good feeling. And then, of course, because you are playing the Seal of Lenneth, you have access to all these different colors with Dark Alice, so you're able to play in Athenia, you're able to play Kaguya relatively easily. These cards are not hard to play once you have everything unlocked, and of course, in generally speaking, this deck is just mostly trying to throw a whole bunch of damage onto the board, uses moons to use the Awakening effect for Nyarlathotep, and then you go from there. Of course, I'm seeing a couple of Motokos and a couple of Athenias in the sideboard for those matchups that really need it. But for the most part, this is also a pretty standard list, and unfortunately, we're not going to see Isis very much from here on out. And I think that's because of a lot of things we're going to be talking about later on, but the word that we need to keep in mind is Melgus. Melgus is a really good ruler, and I think that that's going to take Isis out of the running. And speaking of Melgus, this is also in the top 4, and if you guys are ever wondering if there's any other lists that we could look at, they're going to be down in the description down below, so check those out for all 3 of the tournaments we're talking about today. But Melgus is going to change a little bit from here on out too, so just keep this in mind. This is the first configuration of this deck, and from there on out the variations will include AO2. Or in the next section, we're going to be looking at Wanderer Melgus, but that's neither here nor there. Let's just take a look at what we have right in front of us right now. Very standard, basic list. You're pretty much just using Percival to get Shock T, or to get your Guinevere's so you can feel your hand. And Shock T doubles the effects of all of your sword arts, not your red spells, red chants, excuse me. You're not doubling red chants, you're doubling sword arts. Those chants are doubled, so keep that in mind. So things like your eyes will be doubled, your Shout of the Flame King here will also double. If you have I forget the name of this card, but it's basically a Stoning to Death that kills J Resonators. If you want to double that, you can, but that's pretty much all you can do in terms of doubling up. Of course, you're using Levitin because it's your Regalia that gives you access to all of these strangers down here in your stranger deck. In the sideboard, you have Regalia Break because you don't really need it at this point in the history of the game. Regalia are not that pronounced, but as you can probably guess, that's going to change as we head forward into a Priscia, Machina, Valentina deck meta. So this card you're going to see is going to gravitate up into the main deck for the most part. So if you're going to copy this deck, just keep that in mind. You might want a couple of these in the main deck. But congratulations to all the players who topped at this event at the Spanish Masters, though that was New Frontiers. So now we're going to look at the ruler breakdown for the Wanderer tournament, and this is the one tournament we actually had a ruler breakdown for. I couldn't find it for the New Frontiers. If you do have it, and I just completely missed it because I'm a goober, just put it down in the comment section down below for any of those folks who were curious. So the metagame breakdown here for the Wanderer, by the way, this is every set in the game up until now except for the original Valhalla sets. That is the Wanderer tournament. So what we're going to be looking at is 5 Loki, 2 Isis, 2 Lucifer, 2 Melgus, Yggdrasil Malefic Verdant Tree. This is the second Yggdrasil ruler, in case you're wondering what that is. An Arthur, Adam Sykart, Ayu, Brunhild, Hanzo, Fox deck, Lilius Petal, Memory of the Seven Lands, which is the Arla combo deck. You'll be actually seeing that here pretty quick. Seer of the Blue Moon, which is basically a stealth list. If you're interested in that, I'm sure the Global Glooper have that for you. And then a mysterious Time Spinning Witch player, and maybe they were just playing because Time Spinning Witch is a ruler. I don't know, maybe their favorite. But what we're going to see is a couple of these singulars are actually going to be in the top 8, which says a lot about the state of Wanderer. It's very interesting. Speaking of which, Lucifer Umir combo actually won the tournament. And I'm going to find their name here. Hold on just a second. I want to make sure I give them a shout out. Alejandro Del Val, congratulations. You actually won this tournament. It's great. I'm glad it wasn't Hanzo again. For those of you who may not know, Wanderer had a lot of Hanzo and a lot of green going on for a long time. So it's good to see something else win. And of course, it's the classic Umir combo. So what is Umir combo for those of you who don't know? Umir at Ta Will is the main win condition of your deck. The Will of Despair has nothing to do with what this card can do. That's only for if you're using Dark Book, which is a J ruler that no one uses anymore, so don't worry about it. When it enters the field, search your deck for up to a non-chant card with total cost 1, one that is total cost 2, and another that is total cost 3, and put them into the field. Notice that's non-chant, so that includes things like resonators, additions. I believe that would even include regalia, especially these new regalia that are coming in. You're gonna see that none of that stuff is actually present because it doesn't benefit the deck in any way. But here we are, Umir combo. Umir is one of the more powerful resonators that has been printed in the past, and it's clearly still one of the best ones today. So how do you get this really beefy resonator onto the field? It's a total cost 7. You're not running any ramp, so what do? You play a heroic epic for the 1000th night. You just put a resonator from your hand into the field, and then it bounces back to your hand at the next end of turn. So you play this on your turn, you play Umir, bunch of stuff floods the field, then it goes right back into your hand so you can reuse it, which is really, really nice. One of the other main cards that is staple to this combo is the Fairy Tale Library Alexandria. You just call a race and they have swiftness. Isn't that cool? There you go. Suddenly all of your Athenias, for instance, if you call High God, suddenly they all have swiftness. It can do some crazy stuff. Speaking of Athenia though, because you're running runes and because you're running some easy to play runes like Tears of Sorrow down here, you're able to just proc that rune 1 effect pretty easily. You can corrupt and harvest at the same time. A bunch of things happen and you get some free stones, which is really nice. So you basically play a heroic epic for free once you put an Athenia into the field. You can also play things like Book of Ibon to revive stuff from your graveyard, and you can play Rachel as well to not only mess with decks and stuff like that, it'll also you can also kill it through the sacrificial altar and then proc her effect to search out a card. So there's a lot of different things you can do here, a lot of different play lines, not to mention a whole host of other things you can put down onto the field. And if you look closely at the deck, you're going to notice things like Look of Corruption to make sure your opponent can't stop you, Final Breeze, because why not? You play an Athenia, recover all of your stones, play Final Breeze, your opponent can't do anything to stop your plays, and you can just win from there on out. Umir combo, super fun deck. It's one of those things that's been around ever since this card came out. So congratulations to Alejandro for winning, and we're going to get on to the second place winner. And this is the Arla combo from Santiago Rico. And if you don't know what Arla combo is, we'll explain it. And you're going to want to pay attention to this part because Arla is green. What's going on? Well, at the end of Alice Cluster, the first Alice Cluster, they re-released all of the 7 kings who, spoilers, died at the hands of Dark Alice, and they re-released them as the memorial versions of them, the Memoria versions of them, who they used to be. So Arla used to be a green ruler before they became the ruler of the skies, which I think is really kind of cool. But anyway, the reason you play Arla, and as you can see, they are definitely not Arla on their front side. They're a Memoria on their front side. But the reason you play Arla is not because of the draw effect. It's not because it's treated as Arla. It's because of this last effect. Whenever a resonator you control attacks, recover target magic stone you control. Seems a little wonky, right? What's the combo then? Well, the combo is to play Grubalesta's Secret Technique. It's quick cast. It's black-green, and you just make a target magic stone at 10/10 with swiftness until the end of the turn, and it's still a magic stone. So now you have a Resonator that is also a Magic Stone, attacking with Swiftness 10/10. You starting to get the picture? Well, that's important because now we're making it have barrier. So you make your Speaking Stone into a 10/10 Resonator with Swiftness, and you just start swinging. They can't kill it because it has barrier. So this combo has been pretty classic ever since Speaking Stone came out. It's not as though like these stones didn't exist before. It's not as though this combo didn't exist before. But Speaking Stone was the perfect stone for it because stones with barrier cannot be destroyed. So Arla was really hoping to get that. So what else does this deck have in it to make sure that it goes off? Well, it has the infamous Lorite, which is the promo art here. This is, I believe, the secret rare or the promo art for Lorite. Cancel activate ability, cancel automatic ability, and then if you have Spirit Magics in your graveyard, which you never will in this deck, you can banish 3 to put back. Not banish, excuse me, exile 3 to put it back in your hand. So Lorite is one of those cards infamous for how ridiculously broken it is. I'm kind of glad that it's gone, but in Wanderer it's still around. You also have Seal of Wind and Light, which is just a pay to cancel something. It's a target spell, so it is not necessarily just a chant, it's everything. So you can stop Resonators, you can stop additions, you can stop Regalia, Strangers, you can do whatever you want. This stops it. If it's on the chase, this can stop it. Unless it's, uncancelable, of course. And then you have Wall of Wind. You can time lock your opponent, cancel target spell unless the controller plays one additional one. So it's great when your opponent is like trying to go off and they pay in all of their will, and you just stop them for one. It's a classic card. We have Final Breeze, which you talked about a little bit. Return target spell to its owner's hand, and if you torrent, your opponent cannot play spells this turn. So it's basically like a mini Law of Silence. Outside of that, what is the monster count looking like? The monster count. Wow. Oh my god. Too much Duel Links, folks. What are the creatures looking like? Well, we have Sacred Elf. So this is basically Acolyte of the Sun, but it's older and it was a lot more broken because it's in green. So there you go. Same thing with Melfi. It's just a 2-drop version, but it's quick cast and it can produce any color you want. When this card enters the field, prevent all damage that would be dealt to target J Resonator this turn if you played 2 or more cards this turn. So it's basically got Torrent without having Torrent. So it can prevent damage, which is really nice, but it also can just filter for any color you want, which is nice because you're playing Dark Alice. You do not have any additions in this deck, so you cannot unlock all of your stones for any color that you want, unfortunately. But you can play her through Melfi's effect, so Melfi is pretty important to this combo. You also have Tama, which is one of the better cantrips in the game. Tama just enters the field, draw a card for 1, and then it can banish itself to deal 200 to some Resonator that you want. Outside of that, that's Arla combo, folks. Pretty much everything else in the deck is going to either get rid of additions, it's going to prevent your opponent from dealing damage to you, or remove them from battle. This is Scarlet's Agony, does the same thing, it allows you to draw a card. And then Heteroclite Excalibur is just there for removal. It's all pretty much the same. You can give your stuff Eternal too with Athena's Love if you find yourself in a situation where you need to do that. But that's the Arla combo, and congratulations to Santiago Rigo for actually getting second place with that. Next up is Melgus Burn from Francisco Jose Diaz Jimenez. It's a really long name, but congratulations, you got top 4 with this. Melgus Burn. This looks familiar, doesn't it? Yeah, we just talked about it a little bit. So Melgus. Really good ruler right now, and he can flip over after giving you a whole bunch of fun effects with your Regalia. He can turn into a 10/10 with First Strike, and then you can grab a stranger at random and put it into the field, so he's very aggressive. On his front side, if you play a Regalia, you can deal damage to your opponent, which is really helpful if you're trying to sort of beat them out of what they're trying to do. Cthulhu. Cthulhu is the reason Rukeg is broken. And I'm going to say that one more time in case it's not obvious already. Cthulhu is the reason that Rukeg is broken. Now, we just got Rukeg back, and there was a lot of worry about Rukeg being back. But the reason Rukeg and Cthulhu are so good together is because you can Play your Rook Egg. Incarnate it off for a Cthulhu. Grab another Cthulhu. Swing in with your first Cthulhu. Tribute the first Cthulhu for the second Cthulhu, and just go in. And just do that over and over and over again. It's a good play. It's 10 damage. There's nothing saying you don't get a battle step in your first turn, so you can deal a whole bunch of damage right off the bat without much of an issue. So if you open up Cthulhu and Rook Egg, that's 10 damage right off the bat, and that's really, really helpful. It limits your deck down, searches out a few things. It's just getting a bunch of dead cards in your hand, pretty much gone. So Cthulhu, bunch of damage. Rook Egg, just a kind of a useless card until you can get rid of it, which is also why you're noticing that there is no Guinevere in this deck. Just Guinevere is a little too slow for this deck, apparently. But this is one of the reasons why people were worried about Rook Egg. They were forgetting that Cthulhu was not in our current meta for New Frontiers, so there was a little bit of a worry there. But Cthulhu and Wanderer is still very legal and very good. You'll notice that this Cthulhu art is different than this Cthulhu art. This is the Wanderer promo that just came out a little while ago, not too much longer ago. But anyway, I'm going to move on. We're going to talk about Majin Dark Elf a little bit. This is a relatively new card that came out a couple of sets ago. So you are playing the Null Magic Stone, which means you're dealing 2 damage to yourself, and that way you're allowed to play Majin Dark Elf because you can only play it if you were damaged this turn. So that's really important to keep in mind. Anyway, that's the basic monster lineup. Of course, you have some Fiery Angels of Vengeance to help make all of your stones into red sources, but that's not really as important as getting rid of your opponent's stuff. And then, of course, you have Percival to search out all of your stuff that you need in order to go off. So your Regalia, your not your Cthulhus, because those are 3 cost, but you can get your Rook Eggs, and you can get your not your Fiery Angels because they're not red, but you can get your Majin Dark Elves. Or another Percival. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with this one card, and then you can tribute it off to do 2 damage. So that's important as well. It's pretty common to see Percival being played in red decks right now. So what else do we have for Malgus? So he has a lot of support. Of course, he has Awakening of the Flame King. You can deal 8 to target player, or target player has to banish a Resonator. Or this card will deal 4 to the board, and you can put anything 3 or less from your hand into the field. That's Resonator specific, so that's really good. That's Flame King Shout, but it's Awakening of the Flame King instead. Multimodal Flame King is really, really good. You also get Bloody Break, which is that card I mentioned earlier. You can destroy target J Resonator, and if it was awakened, you get to add a stranger to your hand. I don't know if you necessarily need to do that unless you're running low on cards, but it is there as an option, and this is just there to get rid of stuff like your opponent's Arlas, or if they've got if they flipped a Malgus, it's in your hand, so it's a really good card for that reason. We also have Lightning Strike, and Lightning Strike specifically because it deals 500 damage to a J Resonator or to an opponent, but the reason you run Lightning Strike is because it does not target. If you look at Thunder, which we have a copy of it, Thunder says target player, so you can activate things like Light of the Moon in response to give yourself barrier and prevent that damage. However, Lightning Strike does not target, so the damage still goes through. That's really important to remember if you're going to be playing Malgus and Wanderer. So what other stuff do we have in this deck? Well, if you're old school, you remember Excalibur, the first one. Gives your J-Ruler target attack, or as we like to call it today, precision. It also pumps up your J-Ruler by 200 and can give it imperishable if you just tribute it off. Death Scythe is a similar pump, but it prevents your opponent's J-Ruler from gaining imperishable and swiftness, and they lose it if they already have it. These are really great because these are old school regalia, which means they are probably a lot more powerful than the ones we have today. I say probably because I don't really know if that's true, because some of this new stuff is actually pretty darn good, even though it's contained. So that's Malgus. Congratulations to Francisco again for getting top 4. And real quick, I just want to say there were a lot of really cool lists in this Wanderer tournament. The top 8 lists in general were really, really, really cool. So I just want to give a quick shout out to Saul Aguado, Angelica Lopez, Juan Antonio Antolines, and Ivan Penev for getting top 8 with their cool lists. If you guys really want to see those lists, and I highly recommend that you do, you should go down to the description and check those out. It's the Spanish Wanderer Masters link down in the description down below. Anyway, congratulations guys, and we're going to move on now to what you've all been waiting for. You've all been waiting for GP Vegas. So this is our most recent tournament. It just happened this past weekend. From what I hear, it was really interesting. I was not there. I wish I could have been, but I was not there. But we do have a ruler breakdown. Shout out to the TCG Scrubs for sending this out and putting this on the internet for everyone to see. There were about 39 players according to the number of things that I have. We have a ton of Melgas at this tournament at 10. There were 7 Machina, 4 Loki, 4 Adam, 4 Prisia, 2 Hanzo, 2 Faria, 2 Isis, a Valentina, Lenneth, Brunhild, and Fushi. And I believe that Fushi is Joey from the TCG Scrubs. I think it might be. I'm not entirely sure, but on their recent podcast, they were talking about him potentially going with Fushi because it would be different. So yeah, I hope that's him. That'd be great. Anyway, let's look at the top winner here. And the winner of GP Vegas was Mike Nolan. He was playing Prisia, one of our more recent rulers that just came out. And so, because of that, we're going to actually break down Prisia a little bit, because I feel like this is going to be the deck to beat from here on out. Prisia, it's a classic ruler. I remember the first Prisia that came out was super cool. Solid green ruler, and was able to use her Horn of the Phantom Beast to put in, to substitute in for mana for these awesome cards. I'm really glad that they're back. Huge fan. But this deck is a little bit different. So, we're going to talk about Prisia. This is the front side of Prisia. So Prisia is a little girl ruler. Wow, cannot speak today, but here we are. You get a Stranger 10, which means you get a Stranger deck. Congratulations. Every ruler from here on out, this cluster is going to give you Strangers, so just keep that in mind. Judgment of green, red, energized for either red or green. Her effects are, whenever you put a Wind Regalia into the field, you can choose one, but if it was the Claw that you'll see later on in this presentation, you get to do 2 instead. So she has 4 effects. You can choose a Stranger card from your deck at random, or you can put a 6/6 Wind Beast Resonator token into the field, or put 2 friendship counters on this card, or do 0 for Judgment this turn. So basically the things you need to understand is you can either make a token or put 2 friendship counters on here when you play Regalia. Sometimes you want to do both, sometimes you don't want to do those 2 specifically, but those are the things that make Prisia unique. And when she flips, she has natural swiftness, but because of that, she does not get much else besides her God's Art. And that is going to be Power of Friendship. It's going to be the same thing as her Judgment cost. You double the attack and defense of all J Resonators you control until the end of the turn. That is a cloud effect. So if you play something after you activate that effect, they will get the bump as well. So they will be double their attack and defense, which is really, really good. But Prisia is known for the 4 Sacred Beasts, one of which is the Phoenix, or some people like to say the chicken, because it is kind of chickeny. Zhu Kuei, the Sacred Beast, has swiftness. 4/4 comes in, deals damage, 200 damage per 4 Sacred Beast to a Resonator. That is really good. And then it's a 4/4, so you get to do some awesome things with it. It's in natural color, so you get to play it a little bit more often, which is nice. You also get to play Quinlong, which when you enter, if you control another 4 Sacred Beast, you draw a card, and then you can pay 1 once for all your 4 Sacred Beasts to gain +2/+2, which is a really nice effect. You also get to have the Baihu Tiger, Precision, which is the same thing as target attack, remember that. It's a 6/6, and when you come in, you get 200 life for every 4 Sacred Beasts that you control. And then you get Turtle, Zhuanhu, Zhuan Wu. I'm sorry, not pronouncing these very well. Zhuan Wu. Return target resonator to its owner's hand. Total cost equal to the number of 4 sacred beasts you control. So this is one of the better ones in my opinion. I really like Zhu Kuei and I really like the turtle. These two do a lot of work. But in Mike's list, there's more of the Phoenix than there are of the others. There's only 2 copies of each because I think in general, this is probably your most rewarding for Sacred Beast because it can remove things, which is really nice. But in addition to that, you have the leader of the 4 Sacred Beasts. What do you mean? I thought it was Prisia. It's not Prisia. It's Huanglong. So we need to talk about Huanglong because he's the reason why a lot of this stuff can even happen. So it's a god / beast, which means it benefits from all of the beast support, which is really nice. This card gains +2/+2 for each sacred beast you control. When it enters, though, you get to reveal cards from the top of your deck until you reveal a 4 sacred beast that you don't already control, and put that card into the field, shuffle your deck. So this is basically like a Percival, but even better than Percival. And as long as you control all 4 sacred beasts with different names, this card and 4 sacred beasts you control gain swiftness, flying, and barrier. This card's super good. There's a reason it's super rare. It's one of the main reasons this deck is even playable and is so good right now. So if you have all 4, it gets +8/+8. So it's a 2-drop 13/13 that gives everything, ideally, swiftness, flying, and barrier, so they can't even remove your stuff one at a time. But in addition to that, you get the Hot Spring of Sisei. So you get to put a friendship counter on your Prisia, which is really, really necessary. And then you can search your deck for a 4 sacred beast and put it into your hand, shuffle your deck. And then, the most important piece, the reason you can play multi-attribute creatures in your main deck. If there are 3 or more friendship counters on your J-Ruler, you may put a 4 sacred beast from your hand into the field. That does not say sacrifice those counters. It says put stuff into the field. Card's super, super bonkers. I love this thing so much. This and Huanglong are the reasons this deck can even operate. In addition to the Claw, which we'll get into a little bit later. But first I want to talk about the Mole. So the Friendly Seeking Mole. I don't know if anyone has any Earthbound fans out there, but this totally reminded me of Earthbound. You enter it, put a friendship counter in your J-Ruler, and then if there are 3 or more friendship counters on your J-Ruler, search your deck for a Wind Regalia and put it into your hand. Isn't that great? So all of a sudden, you have this little mole able to search out the Wind Regalia you need to proc Prisia's front side effects. And he's just there. He's just a little guy. He's just a 3/3 that allows you to do stuff. So he tutors and he promotes his own tutoring, which is really nice. Then you can play the Claw. So when you play the Claw, don't forget that it is a Wind Regalia by nature of this little icon that says it's wind. So that's really nice. When it comes in, you can get your friendship counters on it, which is really nice. Beasts and 4 sacred beasts you control gain +1/+1 for each friendship counter on your J-Ruler. Put a bunch of friendship counters on your Prisia. Go hard, because now your Huanglong is not just 13/13 under ideal conditions, it's even bigger than that. And that should be something worth attaining. So she gets big creatures that can do a bunch of damage. And then of course it has everything that it's always had. You can produce some will that can only be used for God's Arts, Strangers, or Sacred or Sword Arts as well. So that's super important to remember. It can only work for Sword Arts. And from here on out, we get to look at all of the additional support that she gets access to. So, Super Beast Burning Rush. Say that 5 times fast. So this is a Sword Art, so your Claw is able to pay for it in part. You put a friendship counter on your J-Ruler first thing, so that's really nice. If this card was awakened, choose X times from the following. Otherwise, choose X times from the following at random, where X is the number of friendship counters on your J-Ruler. So if you have 3, you choose 3. If it's awakened, you choose 3 at random, but if it's awakened, you get to choose 3 as you would like. You can deal 500 to your opponent, or put a 6/6 Wind Beast token, Wind Beast Resonator token into the field, swiftness until the end of the turn, or recover up to 2 magic stones you control, or choose a card from your stranger deck at random and put it into your hand. So this card does a whole lot. It's her basic multimodal spell. And this actually comes out in the set. It is not in the deck itself. So just keep that in mind as well. It's one of those you really want one of these cards. At least 4 copies would be really good. This card is very important because it can deal a whole bunch of damage to your opponent, or it could flood your field with Beast Resonator tokens, which, by the way, get procced by the Claw, so the Claw makes them even bigger. It's really good. We also have the Burning Rush. So not Super Beast Burning Rush, just Burning Rush. Just burning. This card deals 10 damage to target J Resonator, or target J Resonator you control gains +10/+10 till end of turn. And you get to reduce the cost of this card if you have 3 friendship counters down to 1, or if you have 7, you can just play it for free. And it's got quick cast. Really, really good. You don't really need rapid growth in this list, so yeah, you don't really need that at all. But what else? Well, there's Magna's Guardian Beast. You can search your deck for up to 2 Resonators with total cost 1, put them into the field, shuffle your deck. You just go +2 off of playing this card. So you can play the Mole. The Mole is great. The Mole gives you friendship counters. The Mole is going to be able to search out your regalia. It's going to do a lot of fun things. So Magna's great. I really like Magna. This card gets even better with the Firefoxes and the Piggies in the sideboard. Speaking of Piggy, it's just a rushing boar, but it looks a lot like Piggy. Just saying. It's Piggy looking. Put a friendship counter on your J Ruler as long as there are 3 or more. This card gains precision, which is nice. I like it. It doesn't search out anything, but it's there for the Magna Beast. There's a 3rd copy in their sideboard as well. Make sure you remember that. But what else do we have? Well, probably one of the more important cards to be released in this set is Don't Cheat. So this is a sword art. So you can use the Claw to pay for it if you want. But you can play it without paying its cost if it targets a spell that was not played from a hand. So you know what things aren't played from a hand? Remnants. Sorry about that, a little bit of an audio blip. Like I was saying, this card can stop remnants, so things like Rapid Growth that you can cast from the grave, that stuff can be canceled with Don't Cheat. But what else can be canceled by Don't Cheat? Well, there's noticeably from I don't know if I don't remember this, but we have a thing called a rune deck. And a rune deck is not a hand. Even though it operates like a hand, it's not a hand, I promise. Technically, it's not the hand. So, what does that mean? It means that things like the chants from your rune deck, your rune chants, will be stopped by this. So things like Neo Ragnarok can be stopped because it's a chant rune. It's both a chant and a rune, so you can stop it. But you can't stop things like Sealing Scroll. Why? Because it's not a chant. It's a master rune. So it's not a chant. You cannot stop it. It says so right there. It says master rune. You cannot stop it. It also means you can't stop things like Jet Black Wings. Why? Because it's a rune. Does it say chant? No, you cannot cancel it. If it says chant rune, you can cancel it. I just want to be very clear about that. It's not anything that is cast from somewhere other than the hand. It's specifically a chant, a target chant spell. And when they say that cancel target chant spell, they mean the target that is on the chase. So you can cancel it. Otherwise, you can just cancel it. If it's a chant, you can just pay 3 and cancel it. And if you control a Wind Regalia, you get to draw a card, which is nice, but ultimately what you're playing it for is to stop rune decks. This card is going to be highly pivotal, in my opinion, going forward. This card is probably the most important card in Alice Origins at this point because of what it does for New Valhalla. We also have no idea if this card is going to be usable in whatever Force of Will's 7th block or cluster is. We have no idea. So even if this card only has particular utility right now, we might even see it show up in Wanderer, where rune decks have been kind of going a little crazy, as you could see, like Umir combo winning over in Spain and all this other crazy stuff. You could stop it with Don't Cheat, so other things would not be able to occur. So just keep that in mind. Don't Cheat, very good. Maybe not broken, but very necessary. And I really like this card because it shows that the development team is choosing to be precise with their card development. So just keep that in mind. Precise card, stops runes, very good. Prisia, love this ruler. Glad she's back. I missed her. She was great. Loved her play style. It's a very tempo-y, very aggressive. And her creatures just get huge. Love it, love it, love it. Congratulations, Mike Nolan, excuse me. Totally screwed up your name, bro. Congratulations for winning, man. It was great. And we're going to move on to second place now. And second place goes to Derek Mugwaneza, who got second place with Machina. So, machines, but not the ones you thought. Because for a long time we've had Arthur, King of Machines, but now we have Machina, the OG machine ruler, back once again, but with a different strategy. Because he's younger, he has more flexibility, and he can do a lot more stuff than he could before. So, what's going on with Machina? So Machina is one of those new rulers, and he has a lot of text, so we're going to have to go through piece by piece. So, Machina. Of course, you get Strangers, you can Judgment for blue, blue, and green. You get Energize for blue or green. So he's a primarily blue ruler. Keep that in mind. Whenever a water regalia enters your field, choose one, but if it's Maribel type 0, you can choose both. Get a Stranger or Judgment for 0. That's a given. Or you can get 2 200 water machine resonator tokens into the field. Or, the other effect he has is you can put 5 +1/+1 counters on Maribel type 0. So we're still getting counters. Blue still is operating in that section of the color pie. But this is interesting, right? We're developing tokens as well. And they're machines, which means if they're count as machines, you can do a lot of fun stuff. And we're going to see why in just a second. So, on its flip side, as long as you control a resonator named Maribel type 0, this card gains 10 and 10 on the front and back side. The God's Art, you can put 10 +1/+1 counters on your Maribel. And you can choose a card from your Stranger deck at random and put it into your hand. That's fine. Frankly, I think this is one of those Stranger rulers that doesn't really need the Stranger deck. It's only there to augment what you're already doing. So you have things like the Sprout and the Barrage Golem and your Undines and your Twin Swords and all of these things. They're great. I mean, they're just like little extra things that, you know, if you're running low on cards and you need some additional utility, you play your Regalia, you get your stuff, or you awaken your spells, your specific spells, and gain those cards back. It's really nice. It's not cantripping, but it's not cantripping. You know what I mean? So you want these cards to be as efficient as possible. Don't just like throw any Strangers you want into this, because frankly, some of them might be very useful to you. So Machina is very good, and what would Machina be without his Maribel? So it's mythic because it's a Regalia, but you notice that it's Regalia and machine. Can be very important. Also recognize that on your front side you're a human, so you're not a machine. That's why people were thinking about maybe running Arthur instead, because you're a machine on your front side, and then you become a machine once you flip. But for the most part, you're looking at the machines you already have on the field, and Maribel, hey, is a machine. Your Jade Ruler gains Barrier, which could be really important. It seems like he wants to attack in and do some big damage with that Pierce, so they're going to try and kill him with something like Melkus's 2-drop that kills Jade Resonators. That's not possible, so just keep that in mind. You can flip him with impunity and just swing. So you can float will to do things for God's Arts, Strangers, or Sword Arts. So Machina can use Sword Arts, which is really cool. You can pay 0. And this is where Maribel, this is why I love Maribel so much. She's such a cool character in this whole series. You can pay 0, it becomes a 10-10 resonator until end of the turn, but you can only play this ability if there is a soul counter on this card. So how do you get soul counters? That might be your next question. Well, you get them through Maribella. So this, in the story, Maribella frankly dies. Her heart gets placed inside of this giant machine, hence why Machina is so attached to Maribel and why she's so attached to Machina. So when you enter the field as Maribella, you get to search your deck for a machine. Maribel's a machine, just saying. So if you're lacking Regalia, play your Maribella, get your Maribel. You can put it into your hand, then you shuffle your deck, so it's a basic tutor. And you can also, second effect, pay a blue, discard the card, search out your Maribel type 0 directly from your deck, and shuffle. But if this card is in your graveyard, you can remove it from your graveyard to put a soul counter on your Maribel type 0, which is nice. So now you can mobilize your Maribel and do some crazy 10-10 beater stuff. Not to mention, if you have counters on her, she's just even bigger. So she's just this nice little beat stick that also functions as a Regalia, which is really cool. Also, you can use Deus Ex Machina. There's one copy in this deck. You can search it out with Maribella if you want, or you can just draw into it if you happen to. He can remove all of the counters off of your Maribel and get huge. So it's just another win condition. Different Machina, same hat face thing, which is a little different. Not this hat face thing. This is a pre-hat face thing. But this is the hat face thing that becomes his hat face thing. It's confusing. It's okay. I hope you're still with me. But you can remove +1/+1 counters to put a soul counter on her, which is really nice. So it's another access tool to get her mobilized and get her going. Outside of that, you have things like Guinevere. Because you're using counters, you can put 2 +1/+1 counters on a target machine resonator. So you can put them on her. You can put them on your Vivian, which is also in this list as well. You can put that on your remote control beast, and you can summon your Camelot using your Maribel type 0's counters, which is really nice as well. Camelot, if you don't remember, does a lot of crazy crap. You can return stuff, or you can just destroy things if you have your Guinevere on the field, and then it's a 12/12 flyer that can receive additional +1/+1 counters, which is really cool. So you're using some of this older machine support from New Valhalla in part to supplement the strategy of Machina flipping or making Maribel happen, so you can just swing it and do a whole bunch of damage. So what else do we have? So we also have Buster Rifle. Cards named Maribel type 0 you control gain Pierce, so she basically becomes your Machina once she's mobilized. You can tap it to target a J Resonator you control, and it gains +4 on the top end until end of turn. Or you can tap and banish a Machine Resonator. This card deals damage to the banished Resonator's attack to target J Resonator. So you can do a whole bunch of stuff with that. It can be a source of removal for your opponent's side of the board. But you can only play this if you control a Maribel type 0. It does not say you have to sacrifice Maribel type 0, it just has to be a machine. On the flip side, we have the Ultimate Shield. So cards named Maribel type 0 you control gain Barrier. So playing both of these is really, really good. Now they can't remove your Maribel type 0 with, say, Regalia Break, which would still work, by the way, because she's still a Regalia, but she's also a Resonator who's a machine. Unless I'm wrong about that, let me know down in the comment section down below. This card's a little wonky, so if she's no longer a Regalia, let me know. But I'm pretty sure she still is and can be hit by Regalia Break, so let us know. Anyway, you tap. Target J Resonator you control gains +4 on the back end. You can prevent all damage that would be dealt to target machine Resonator until end of turn. And you can only play that if you have a Maribel type 0. So these cards are really good for your main strategy, which is either flip Machina or play a Maribel. Those are your 2 win conditions. Go from there. To get to those cards, you have Maribella's Work. You can pay 1 less and Quick Cast if you have Machine on the field. So you have multiple machines, you get 1 less each time. If you have 5 machines, you get to play this card for free at Quick Cast speed. So you just drop 3 of these and draw 6 cards. Why not? You can if you wanted to. You can also play Machine Lab of Legioness. So the lab brings a target machine with total cost 2 or less from your graveyard and puts it into the field. Hey, look at that. Maribella is a 2-drop machine. It's also Vivian, also Guinevere. So just keep that in mind. You can bring that stuff back. But it's also a machine, so it counts towards Maribella's reduction effect. So you can bring back things like Maribella, like I said, which is really, really nice. But then, in addition to that, some of the older support that Machina had back in the day was Remote Control Beast, which is basically the same effect as Maribella's Work, but it has legs. An 8/8 for free sounds pretty good. It's also a beast, which is a little weird. So you could be doing some beast stuff with this, but I don't think you ever will be. It's just an 8/8 body that you can drop, and there you go. There you have it. Outside of that, you have the Determination of the Machine Lord. This card's insane. So choose one. Machine Resonators you control gain Swiftness and +2/+2 until end of the turn. Or return 2 target machines you control to their owner's hand. Feels really good in the mirror match. Or search your deck for 2 machines with total cost 1 or less. Put them into the field and the other into your graveyard. Then shuffle your deck. So you can mill stuff into the grave if you wanted to. I really like the March effect. So March of the Machines was the original win condition for Machina. And they, like so many other cards in Alice Cluster, just migrated those effects into these multimodal spells that are really, really good. There's a reason you play 4 of these. It can be free if you already have your Maribel on the field. You can just use that will instead of using your own stones, and then all of a sudden you have this ability to just slam through whatever you want. It's really, really good. This is one of the other main win conditions. In addition to that, I don't know if there's anything much more we need to talk about because we have 1 copy of Don't Cheat, couple Loki's Insight, Erendite to negate stuff that your opponent wants to do. You have March of the Dead to bring stuff back to the field. A Lover's Lock just because you get an additional +5/+5 onto your Maribella, or you can make more machine tokens. You can do a whole bunch of stuff with this 1 additional card. It's quick cast too, so if you have all of this open will and you want to play this, you can make your Machina grow your Maribel even more on your opponent's turn, which might have some particular effects to it. Other than that, this deck was super cool. I really like the fact that machines are going in a different direction, even though they're in the same colors as they were back in New Valhalla. Here we are. Machina is back. He has no hat face thing, but it's okay. We'll still take you, man. All right, we're gonna move on to the other lists that are being played here at GP Vegas. So, I believe this is top. I want to say this is still top 4. I think I'm right. Just checking my notes here. Yes, these are the other top 4. So we have Scott Garringe that got top 4 with a Melgus list. As you can see, this deck is a little bit different than it was before. Awakening of the Flame King went down to a couple numbers. You're playing some Thunders. You're also playing the new Board Wipe spell, which is really good if you're just sort of if you're down for the count and you need to hit the field with some damage. Here you go. You're also playing Guinevere's, your Percivals, your Firefoxes. You notice there's no Rook Eggs. March of the Dead's still in there, but you're also playing Lila to get your couple of stones. So this is the other aggro choice you could make outside of Prisia. Jalen Rojas also got top 4. And he was also playing a Prisia list, although you'll notice that he's not playing all of the 4 Sacred Beasts, and he's playing 1 Magna in the board addition to the winner of the tournament, and he's also playing a 4th copy in the side. Percival's a search for all of your different don't cheats and all of your other your regalia breaks and your actual regalia, things like that. So this card's really solid. It's the blue Percival. You tribute it, you can 4C1. It's really, really good. Play it, but what is this? I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Oh, it's a bear. It's a bear. Well, this bear is scary because it's got quick cast. It's also got those soulless eyes that I don't know what to do with, but when this card enters, this card may deal damage equal to its attack to target attacking or blocking J Resonator, so it's a defensive Resonator that continues to have legs, which is nice. This ability only triggers if there are 3 or more friendship counters on your J Ruler, so put your counters on your J Ruler. Please, the bear wants to be here. The bear. It's not in the bush anymore. That's an inside joke. Anyway, the top 8 lists. Kaltuma topping with Machina machines. Brandan Bremont coming out of his hiatus to be present at Vegas. And he's playing just a general, I think this is just a general Lawn Adam with the classic bunch. Your Zeus Alices, your Kaguyas, your Adam Psycarts, your Dark Alices. No Trues, by the way, keep that in mind. No Calico Cats, but Bastet. Bastet is here. Trant of Tranquility is here. Your Length stuff is still here. Your Bewildering Charms overtake some of your other stuff. Erendite's in the main board. And then, of course, your Loki's Insight to prevent your opponent from using their quick cast stuff against you. Especially if you're running a deck like this. I mean, you have so many quick cast cards. I mean, you have Kaguyas in the main board. You have Dark Alice. You have, I believe this is I think it's Ray of Hope. It's like one of the new cards from AO1. Put something that's 900 attack or more back into the hand. You can also hit Bewildering Charm Bastets, Erendites opposing Loki's Insights. And this card is literally the thing that rips apart this deck. So I think this card is super good right now. Keep an eye out for that. It also gets rid of your opponent's don't cheat, their Lokis, a whole host of other things. So just keep that in mind. I still think Adam has a lot of potential. It's not like any of that stuff went away. It's not like any of that stuff got worse. You just don't need Dark Alice and Zeus Alice to win anymore, which is a good feeling in my opinion. More top 8 lists. Kyle Ward got top 8 with Hanzo. So again, you don't need Dark Alice to win, because clearly there were a lot of Prisias in the top, and there was a couple of Machina as well, but you had a Hanzo get in there. And why shouldn't it? It's still very good. It won the New Frontiers over in Spain, so it's still decent here. And most of the main deck has not changed. Motoko's in the main board. A couple of tech options. A couple of Trues, not that many. Limited amount of Loki's Insights, but Table Flip's in the sideboard too. I think we should maybe keep a look at Table Flip. I think it's got some potential. It can do some really funny things. And then, of course, Dylan Hunt also got top 8 with Prisia. Main board in the Piggies and the Moles. They're also not playing too many of the Sacred Beasts. They're only playing 1 copy of Tiger and of Phoenix, 2 Turtles, and 2 Dragons. Which is, I think, is fine. And then, of course, we have the quick cast version of Prisia's Call to Action. This has quick cast. I know it doesn't say it has quick cast. The company knows, but it has quick cast. Let's just keep that in mind. Anyway, I think this deck relies more heavily on the Stranger deck. Bruised is very good. So just keep that in mind as well. Anyway, that was a really great tournament. I'm really cool to see these deck lists are really awesome, and I really enjoy going over them. But as always, we have to talk about my thoughts. So my thoughts are, look at all these rulers we don't have. Rulers like Valentina. Valentina wasn't there. At least not in heavy amounts. It didn't seem like there was much going on with her at all. We also didn't see Faria, or Lenneth, or Brunhild, or Isis, or Arthur. By the way, I thought Arthur was going to be there. Arthur wasn't there. It's a little disappointing. No Chimimis. Why no love for Chimimi? Lich was also absent. No Lucifers. And of course, no Loki. But what was there? So we had Hanzo. And we had Adam. Albeit small amounts. Same thing for Melgus. Small amounts. But they were there. And their decks were pretty honed. It was pretty good. What I think is going to end up with Melgus, though, is that Prisia is going to fight him out for the most aggressive J-Ruler we have to date. Then we had Machina, of course, and Prisia. So there were 3 copies in the top. There were 2 copies in the top as well, and then 1 of each for the rest. Which, to me, that's a pretty healthy meta. Am I right? I mean, these rulers are Stranger Rulers. They're pretty aggressive, and they're doing some wonky things, but they're not relying on their Stranger deck. It's mostly there to help supplement you losing out on card advantage, right? And give you some additional bonus effects. But it's not like the Rune deck, right? So like the Rune deck, Sealing Scroll is meta shaping. Adam's Sidecart, not really Rune related, but Sealing Scroll, right? Neo Ragnarok. Cards like this are really powerful, and we thought for a while that these were the cards that were going to be shaping the meta, but it seems like with the advent of Machina and Prisia, we're not seeing that as much. So I think this is a healthy bunch. It's not as though Rune decks are bad, it's just they got the right card that they needed, that we needed to sort of curtail their power in Don't Cheat. So things like Harvesting Season are not going to see play. Because if your opponent opens up with Don't Cheat, and trust me, they will definitely do that. If you're running black and you're trying to use Harvesting Season, they will hard mull for Don't Cheat. It's going to be hard to play Harvesting Season. So I think the turbo stuff is over for right now. But the other encouraging thing that I like to see with these rulers kind of going down in terms of popularity or playability, you also see a lot less reliance on the trio. So this engine doesn't necessarily need to be in the game anymore. You don't have to be piloting decks with this combination to do well. Prisia uses none of these things. Machina uses none of these things. Melgus certainly doesn't use any of these things. Just keep that in mind. These things were good for a really long time, and they still are very good, but they're not necessary like they were before. Same thing with Kaguya. Kaguya, respected. Respect Kaguya, especially, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, once we get our white greenstone, you need to respect Kaguya hard, because she will she will stop your stuff from happening. That's for darn sure. But right now, she's playable, right? But she's not overwhelming. Perfect Loki's the same thing. Every Perfect Loki that I saw in the top 8 was in the sideboard. It's not a main deck card, and you only need 2 copies now if you want to slot them into the side deck. That's really helpful. So if you were not someone who just got into the game, and you were somebody who did not get access to these cards right away because they all sold out and they're too expensive to buy, it's okay. Because we have a ton of cards now, a ton of rulers, a ton of decks that do not need these strategies to be good and to be winnable. Same thing with these cards. I mean, if you can get 1 copy of Deus Ex, that's great, but it's really just there to facilitate more of what Machina wants to do anyway. It's not necessary as a strategy. Same thing with Arthur. Like, we're not seeing Arthur machines too much, so you don't really need Arthur right now. Athenia is great, but the same thing with Perfect Loki. She's in the sideboard. Maybe she's mainboarded 1 copy. Isis is completely off the table. Melgus, Prisia, Machina have overtaken Isis as the main aggressive threats in the meta. She still has a place. If you're an Isis player and you love Isis, FBI, please don't shut us down. But if you love this deck's strategy and you still want to play Isis, I think she's still viable. The question is she more viable than Melgus? I don't know. But the next point I need to make is looking forward. So this is our first GP, but what's coming down the pipe? Well, we have AO3. It has been announced. It was announced back in December. And as you can see, Arla is front and center. So Arla, remember Arla, when it initially came out in Seven Kings of the Land, it was a light ruler. When it got re-released, its past version, Arla was a wind ruler. So, that being said, what kind of rulers are we hoping to see next set? Now, what we do know is that we've had structure decks in the past. So, are we getting Arla in a structure deck, or is Arla going to be in the set? I don't know. It doesn't really say. It seems like Arla's in the set, but I'm not entirely sure. So it's hard to say. But if I had to venture to guess, I would say we're getting Gusting Skies with Arla, which leaves all of these other rulers. Now, if you don't know the Seven Kings off the top of your head, well, let me tell you something. Rezard is the last Seven Kings. So, where the heck is Rezard? Well, Rezard is a vampire. So Rezard is in black, so he's one of these two. But I also remember in Lapis Cluster, the character of Gil Lapis was black and red. We already have a ruler that matches that color combination, so that's Melgus. So that's probably not going to be what Gil Lapis is. However, if you remember the Wanderer that was Gil Lapis, he could fetch a 1-drop, I think it was a white or a black chant from your deck upon enter effect. So he was white and black in his color combination. So this could potentially be Gil Lapis. I have no idea. And then I have even less ideas about who this ruler is going to be. Who's going to be red and blue? I have no idea. Pokemon, red and blue. Buy it today. $40 Game Boy Color. Red and blue. I have no idea who's going to be red blue, but I'm really excited, guys. I'm really excited to see what Arla does. What is Arla going to do? Is this the regalia that Arla uses? Some folks have said it's a crossbow. I don't know. It's a little obscured, but it could also be it could still just be a bow. It could be Artemis. It might be. Or it could be a crossbow. I will admit, a crossbow would be kind of cool. That kind of looks like a chocobo or a set of kidneys. I'm not really sure. But, again, let me know down in the comments, guys. What rulers do you think these are going to be? What rulers do you think are going to have these color combinations? Is this going to be Rezard? Is this going to be Rezard? Is this going to be Rezard? Come on, Force of Will. Give us a curveball. Make Rezard a red ruler with blue. I don't know. But as always, we have one last question for you all. If none of those questions piqued your interest, here's one. What ruler did you want to see in the top 8 but you didn't see? I kind of mentioned before that really kind of wish Arthur machines would have gotten a little bit of a boost. It would have been kind of cool to see multiple kinds of machines being able to be played. I think Lancelot could potentially be very good against Prisia. But again, I don't know. I haven't been able to test most of this new stuff, and I haven't been able to test mostly at all. So y'all let me know down in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, if you liked the video, like the video. If you didn't like the video, give us a comment. Let me know what I could have done better, and we'll try and do it better next time. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, what the heck? Be subscribed to the channel. This is a great video. You watched it all the way to the end, you might as well subscribe to the channel. You clearly enjoyed the video enough to watch it through to the end. And by the way, my content is not the only content on this channel. Of course, we have the Teacher's Lounge every Monday night. We have weekly deck profiles and weekly feature matches. So definitely check those out, guys. Hit subscribe, give me a like, give me a comment, and I'll see you next time.